All right, deep divers, ready for another deep dive. This time we are heading over to Nigeria, where things just got really interesting for former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello.
Interesting is one way to put it.
Well, last time we talked about Bello, he was having a little bit of a disagreement with the EFCC.
Right?
Well, it seems like things have escalated.
They certainly have.
Because now he is facing a 16-count charge alleging he misused a massive amount of money.
A truly staggering amount.
We are talking 110.4 billion naira.
And just so our listener understands, that's billion with a B.
Yes.
This is not a case of misplacing some pocket change.
No.
This is public funds meant for the people of Kogi State potentially being misused on a massive scale.
And to make matters even more interesting, 2 other officials have been caught up in these charges as well.
That's right. We've got Abdulsalami Hudu and Umar Oricha.
And according to these charges, it looks like this money was used to fund some pretty extravagant purchases.
We are talking about a lavish lifestyle, allegedly fueled by public funds.
We are talking about a string of luxury properties in Abuja.
Maitama, Karumpa, Asokoro. You name the high-end district, and it seems like Bello might have owned a piece of it.
But they didn't stop in Nigeria, did they?
Oh, no, they went international.
One of these charges alleges that Bello used state funds to buy an apartment in the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, Dubai.
Yes, in Dubai, for over 5.6 million dirhams.
It really makes you wonder, was this a pattern?
It does.
Were these properties purchased perhaps at inflated prices? These are questions that investigators are going to be digging into, I'm sure.
I would certainly think so.
You know, one of the things that's really fascinating to me about all of this is just the potential strategy at play here. If these properties were acquired using state funds, as is alleged, buying them overseas, or even just through really complex ownership structures,
Right.
it could be a way to kind of conceal the origin of the money.
Oh, I see.
It just adds another layer of complexity to this whole case.
And this wasn't just like one apartment in Dubai, right? There is a lot more.
Oh, there's more?
They also threw in a cool 310 million naira to renovate a property in Zone 4.
Yeah, that's not exactly chump change.
Not at all.
And then on top of that, we've got these really eye-popping international money transfers.
Right.
We are talking over $500,000, not once, but twice, wired to a TD Bank account in the U.S.
What is going on there?
Well, it's important to remember at this point that these are just allegations.
Right.
Bello is presumed innocent until proven guilty, but you've got to admit these financial dealings definitely warrant a closer look.
They do. And, you know, this isn't the first time that authorities have tried to take Bello into custody.
This is actually the latest chapter in a bit of an ongoing saga.
And if I remember correctly, the EFCC has tried to arrest Bello before, right?
That's right. In fact, the latest attempt went down at the governor's lodge in Abuja, no less.
Okay.
And it gets even more complicated because the current Kogi State governor, Usman Ododo, he actually got involved.
Really?
Yeah, he stepped in to actually prevent the arrest.
So Ododo was trying to protect Bello.
It seems that way, but legally speaking, it's a bit of a gray area.
How so?
Well, you see, in Nigeria, governors have what's called immunity. It's this legal protection that shields them from certain types of prosecution while they're in office.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's meant to prevent these frivolous lawsuits and make sure that governors can actually do their jobs without constantly being harassed with legal troubles.
Okay. I understand the idea behind it, but how does that apply in this case with Bello?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I guess so.
It all comes down to whether Ododo's actions in protecting Bello fell under his own immunity as the current governor.
I see.
You know, did he overstep his authority, or was this a legitimate use of his gubernatorial powers? And that's something that the courts are ultimately going to have to decide.
So it's a waiting game.
It is. And in the meantime, this whole situation just adds another layer of intrigue to this already fascinating case. And it's not just Odo getting involved in all of this. Bello himself has actually taken the EFCC to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
He's challenging the validity of that arrest warrant.
So it's like he's fighting back on multiple fronts.
Exactly. He's not taking this lying down.
So what are his chances? Could the Supreme Court actually side with him on this?
It's tough to say. It's really going to depend on his legal team and the arguments they present.
What are they saying?
Well, they're claiming that the EFCC overstepped their bounds,
I see.
that their actions were unlawful, and that they didn't have the authority to try to arrest him, especially with a sitting governor in the mix.
So they're going to have to convince the Supreme Court that there were some serious procedural errors or abuses of power.
Exactly. They're going to have to show that this warrant was invalid from the get-go.
Well, while all of this legal wrangling is happening, it feels like we're stuck trying to figure out who's telling the truth.
Right, because we're getting these two very different narratives.
Exactly. The EFCC is saying that Bello is just trying to evade justice.
Which, let's be honest, is not a good look.
But at the same time, Bello's lawyers are saying that he's been cooperating this whole time and that the EFCC is the one acting out of line.
It's a classic case of he said, she said.
It really is, and it makes it tough to know what to believe.
And this is where it's important to remember that public perception can be easily swayed.
Right.
But in the eyes of the law, Bello is innocent until proven guilty.
That's right.
And the EFCC, they bear the burden of proof.
So they're going to need to bring some pretty solid evidence to court.
Yes, exactly. They need to present a rock-solid case with clear and compelling evidence beyond a reasonable doubt.
So all of those financial dealings we talked about, those money transfers, those properties.
Why, those are just starting points.
Okay.
They might raise red flags, and they might warrant further investigation.
Like with those international money transfers, for example.
Exactly.
Those seem pretty shady to me. Over $500,000 wired to that U.S. bank account, not once, but twice.
On the surface, it certainly looks suspicious.
It does.
But the EFCC is going to have to prove that those were not legitimate transactions.
So it's not enough to just show that the money was moved.
No, they need to demonstrate intent.
Okay.
They need to show that those funds were transferred for illegal purposes, like money laundering, for example.
So there needs to be more to the story than just the money itself.
Precisely, context is everything.
And speaking of things that need more context,
Yes.
there was that one detail in the charges that really caught my eye.
Oh, right. The Bespoke Business Solutions Limited.
Yes. What is the deal with that company?
Well, the charges mention that Bello received a significant sum of money from them.
We are talking 677.8 million naira.
It's a hefty amount, and it really makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Was this a legitimate business deal, or could there be more to it?
Like what?
Well, could this be a case of kickbacks?
Okay.
Or perhaps money laundering through shell companies? These are all avenues that investigators are going to have to explore.
So it seems like we are just scratching the surface here.
I think that's a fair assessment.
There's a lot more to uncover in this case.
Well, absolutely.
It's like we're slowly uncovering all these layers of this story, and each layer reveals something even more complex.
It's true. It really does feel that way.
So for our listener who might be feeling a little lost right now, what would you say are the most important things to keep in mind?
Well, I think at its core, this case really highlights just how challenging it is to fight corruption,
Yeah.
especially in a place like Nigeria.
Yeah.
The amount of money allegedly involved, the fact that it involves such high-ranking officials, all the legal maneuvering,
Yeah.
it just goes to show you how deep-rooted these issues really are.
And we can't forget about the politics of it all either, right?
We absolutely cannot.
I mean, Bello's still a pretty prominent figure in Nigerian politics.
It is.
And these charges, they come at a time when it feels like the line between actual anti-corruption efforts and just straight-up political maneuvering is getting really blurry.
You're absolutely right. The timing of these charges is definitely something to pay attention to.
Like, is this a genuine attempt to hold him accountable for his actions, or are there political rivals who are trying to take advantage of this situation?
It's a question worth asking, and it really makes the outcome of all of this even more significant because it's not just about Bello anymore, right?
Right.
This case could set a precedent.
Yeah.
It could have a ripple effect on future corruption cases in Nigeria.
So if the EFCC wins...
It could be a huge victory for anti-corruption efforts. It could send a strong message that no one is above the law, not even former governors.
But if they lose...
It could have a chilling effect. It could discourage future prosecutions.
So we're left with this cliffhanger.
Aren't we always?
I guess so. But as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want our listener to remember this isn't just some abstract legal drama.
No, it's not.
This is a story about real people, about public funds, about the very real struggle for good governance in Nigeria.
That's exactly right. And as this story continues to unfold, I want everyone listening to really think critically about the information they're seeing and hearing.
What do you mean?
Well, consider the source. Look at who's saying what and why they might be saying it.
Okay.
Because when you can cut through the noise and really understand the complexities of cases like this, that's when you become an informed citizen.
And that's what it's all about.
It really is.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive today. It's been enlightening as always.
My pleasure. Until next time.
All right, deep divers, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to check back in with us soon for more deep dives into the biggest stories of the day.